Welcome to a Game of Thrones matchup between a Lannister House of Dreams deck and a Targaryen Maesters Path deck. The Lannister House of Dreams is doing Tunnels to the Red Keep, which you can see right there, and the Lannister player is going to take a look at the chains that the Targaryen player is pulling off. I just want to point out that this is going to be an interesting matchup for the Targ player, as the Tunnels of the Red Keep, for those who don't know, increases the strength of all of the Lannister characters, actually all of the Lannister players' characters, by 1 for each card in Shadows. So the assumption is going to be that this is a Shadow deck, but the reason that that becomes an issue for the Targ player and why the Targ player is potentially going to be fighting an uphill battle is that the Targ players are the Targ player is playing a burn deck, and general burn effects require the targeted character to be at strength 0 to be effective. So obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult for the Targ player to burn down the opponent's character to 0. So this becomes a situation where he's going to either work extra hard to burn down individual characters due to increased strength from the Tunnels of the Red Keep, or he has to choose to use his strength reducers as challenge modifiers. So cards like Flamekist kind of can go either way. They can be very powerful if he gets the right combination of cards, or they can be very weak and may only influence a challenge or two if he can't get the combo of cards. Flamekist is an attachment, so fortunately, whether or not it affects the immediate challenge, it will have a lasting effect. So here they are setting up. The Lannister player sets up what I believe is a Lannisport Counselor, a Gold Road, and I can't make out the other location, unfortunately. And we have an Advisor to the Crown, a Strong Belwas, a Refugee, and a Sea on the Targ player's side. Pretty good opening on the Targ player's side. Oh, and I just noticed that the Lannister player has a Pentoshi mana. There's also a card in Shadows, so both openings are pretty solid, but the Advisor to the Crown is going to be helpful, as he no longer has to at the gates to search for it. So here we can see the plots are City of Lies and Waste Their Time. Waste Their Time is something that the Targ player, I believe, spoke with John Bruno about or heard about it after Worlds. It's one of the good power struggles because it allows Targ to be a dragon if they want to. They don't have to play Fury. Obviously, it's restricted, and it has a good effect, discarding a card from the opponent's hand. And what you just saw was the Golden Tooth Mines was discarded from the Waste Their Time. It's got low stats, but as far as power struggles go, it's considered the best. City of Lies pops a couple of cards into Shadows, which is already trouble for the Targ player because now that one Lannister Counselor is strength 4 with the 3 cards in Shadows. I believe the 3rd card in Shadows was from setup and it was a Tyrion Lannister. Here, I believe he attaches an increased levy to his Pentoshi mana. You can see a Lannisport Weaponsmith, and he's got very few characters, so he doesn't need characters on the board right now. Refugees for free. The Weaponsmith is for 1, so he's got some good gold production. Obviously, the strength of this character is going to be very big this game. So even though he only played 2 characters, those are some big characters. He has to deal with stealth, which may or may not come out. We'll see what the Targ player has. So he has to stealth buy the characters or be able to deal with them with his burn. I know some of the tricks out of this Targ deck specifically revolve around Pyrophobia, which is a pretty nice card out of Targ. The reason being is that rather than having to get your opponent's characters down to a terminal point, to 0, you can usually pop them when they're at 2 strength easily. So there you can say he plays a Harried by Dragons. Looks like he's going to trigger the effect he does to get another Harried by Dragons. So right now that Lannisport Counselor is down to a 3. He can play the Harried by Dragons again to drop it down to a 2. Not sure if he's going to do that. There it is. And let's see if he does anything on top of it. He drops in the Draw Jogo. Always a good card, and it can easily get by the one or 2 military characters for the draw if he wants it to. He does not do anything off of the 2 strength reduction, and he passes it on to challenges. Lannister player does not have any shadow actions, it looks like. The Targ player doesn't have any shadow actions as he doesn't have any cards. So now it's pretty interesting. He can win the intrigue pretty easily. But obviously the Targ player doesn't want him to win the intrigue, so he plays an Incinerate. A good move to control your hand. A lot of the good cards coming out of Targ in this deck specifically are their events and their attachments with ambush and any other cards with ambush. Now the Lanni player swings for a military challenge. It's going to be interesting. He's down to 2 characters on the board, so he probably doesn't mind losing the refugee. But it's going to be, he's only going to have 1 character left after that. Here the Targ player defends for 6. And the Lannister player plays it Insidious Ways. There's a funny card that people don't really expect. It's 2 strength, and if you win the challenge, you get to draw 2 cards. So we'll see if the Targ player here wants to win the challenge. We'll see if he can win the challenge. He can't, so the Lannister player does win. Oh, actually, the Targ player is thinking again. He was asking if he got to draw whether you won or lost, and the answer is no. If you lose with Insidious Ways, you do not get to draw. So the Targ player drops in a Dragon Knight to reduce the weaponsmith strength by 1 so that he can win the challenge. That also allows him to bring a chain off of his agenda. So that was a double bonus there. 1 card allowed him to undo the Insidious Ways, prevent draw for the Lannister player, and to get a card off his chain. I believe it was the Lead Link. So now it's the Targ player's turn to swing for his challenges. He's going for a military challenge right off the bat. Doesn't look like a big one. Sorry, that was a power challenge. That would be why it wasn't a big one. He pulls another chain off, which is one of the nice positives of swinging for those early power challenges. You know, they don't do anything to the opponent, but they usually get a chain off. It's always a consideration whether or not it's worth it to defend it. Here he opposes the military challenge. He takes Dom with his 2 gold. It's a good move on his part to take that Dom, protect his refugee, because it's a pretty big refugee. And he pulls out King's Landing after Dom. Nice move there. It comes out during standing, or at the beginning of standing, so he doesn't actually get to use it twice this turn. But he is going to get some nice draw off of it. And any cards he plays, or any cards coming out of Shadows from now on, are going to really boost his draw engine. Can't make out much of his hand. He doesn't have a ton of board position, but the 2 characters he has are pretty beefy, being +2 strength. And you have to assume he's going to get more Shadows cards coming along. The Targ player has very good board position right now. It looked like he had a Senua's Hill in his hand as well. That's always a pain late in the game because Targ has a tendency to be able to kill your good characters and then bring them back against you. It's one of the nice things about Targ Burn. You'll see them pop up once or twice in a deck just so that after they've killed a bunch of characters, after they've Valored, they really nail you down with that control because they can pop up Senua's Hill, bring the cards back into play to defend and protect their own board position, or bring them into play to really throw a stomping on you. So here you can see he's got a lot of city plots in his... The Lannister player has a lot of city plots in his deck. Good control plots. He needs to open City of Lies, so he's always going to have that city plot opening. So City of Sin for Neil. He chooses Retaliation. Not a bad play for Lannister, assuming he has control elements in the deck, in addition to his strength boosting shadow cards. Well, his shadow cards that inadvertently boost strength because of the Red Keep. There you can see the Targ player going for Maester Aemon. Usually a good choice in a Maester deck as he reduces your opponent's military claim by 1 for effectively the whole game. So it is card advantage, or at least board position advantage. And generally every time you kneel him, you're going to get something for one of your links, or if he doesn't get used, his Valyrian Steel Link will allow him to draw cards. So it's always a nice card to have in Maesters. Here you can see the King's Landing is knelt because he drew. We'll see if he gets to make a play here to draw more cards for marshalling. He does not because he doesn't take card shadows. So Targ player begins marshalling. He drops a Marine Tourney Grounds. Right now, he does have more unique characters. He drops a card into Shadows. The card in Shadows does not benefit the Lancer player, as Tunnels of the Red Keep is specifically your Shadows cards, so that won't have any effect on the Lancer player. And you can see that that was all that the Targ player had for the turn. Didn't really improve his board position, but a lot of times that's because the Targ players generally want to save their resources to surprise you, either with kill effects or other influence requiring effects. He may not necessarily have gold using effects, but he also has the card in Shadows, which we didn't get to see what it was. Here, the Lancer player drops in a Pentoshi Manor, drops in another Lanceport Counselor, so he has his Intrigue icon back, which could potentially be big. The Advisor of the Crown has a lead link on him, but the Lancer player has 3 cards in Shadows, and he's choosing to take Tyrion out of Shadows. So there you can see he stands King's Landing to draw a card. Tyrion also gets one of a bunch of possible boosts when he comes out. He can gain stealth, immunity to events, immunity to attachments, I believe. Renown. He's +2 strength every time a card comes out of Shadows. He's just a beefy card. He's a very nice card. If you play Lancer and you play Shadows, he's just becomes a huge boon to any deck of that archetype. He's not that bad on his own either, because he's a Tricon for strength 4 with a stealth.